Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode.
We're here to talk a little bit about Exaction Squad with Tybalt from France today.
Yeah, hi guys.
We met at the second World Championships of Warhammer, or in many people's minds, the first World Championships of Warhammer.
Yeah.
You were playing a different 10-man squad at the time.
Yeah, I was playing Star Striders. Yeah, another fun team. I wasn't playing Exaction, but yeah, I like 10-man teams. It's my jam.
Yeah, it's like a sweet spot. You know, you out-activate the elves a little bit, but you got to have some weird tools to punch through Space Marines that will wade through battle and smush you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're not like hordy enough to be reckless or trade bodies like willy-nilly.
Yeah, that's true. But sometimes, I feel like, if I can have two more operative, could be better, but we can't have everything.
Yeah. I suppose you went from a 10 operative team on Star Striders to an 11 operative team on Exaction Squad. And Exaction Squad got one of the larger changes, I think, coming over from the last edition of Kill Team to this edition of Kill Team, just in, the subductors becoming far, far more efficient.
Oh, yeah. I've played them quite a lot in the last edition, not so much in this one, but I really like the change they had, because last edition they were lots about their anti-reroll aura on everyone, so that was strong, but that was quite just the thing they really have. Now it's true that the subductors with the fact that they can't have their hit stat lowered by something like contagion from the Peg Marines, it's really neat. So they are a lot more less dicey.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, the Arbity subductors are kind of the linchpin of the team. They got shields, they save on 3s, and they have 4 dice on 4s, 4/4 melee, but they always go first. They can't get injured, and they can double parry. So they basically turn every fight against a shield into a dice roll. And in the last edition, when they could be injured, there was like a moment where you would go into a fight, they would get hit for 5 damage by Felgor or orcs or something else, or a chainsword, and then your subductor, while it was good, was kind of worthless for the rest of the game unless it got healed. But now they're always hitting on 4s, so every fight is a 50-50, where if they go first and you only landed 2 hits, suddenly you get stuck.
Yeah, that's true. They quite sometimes they feel unkillable in melee. You play the team for the shields. You play the team for the subductors, and the leader is the shield. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating for your opponent, because I think like even an assault intercessor with only balanced, I think the operative has only maybe 20% chance to kill subductors on the charge. So they have to spend their 2 activation to kill him, and they even take sometimes like 8 damage. So I take it every time.
Are you maxing out on the shields? Because that's always been one of the big question marks for subductors, because they're one of the more flexible rosters. They can take up to 5 shields, because the leader can have 1, and you can have 4 dorks with shields, right? So there's a lot of questions on how many shields should you actually be taking. And in the last edition, I think the answer was like you take 3 or 4. I'm curious to hear what you've been doing.
Yeah, it's the big question on this team, because like every operative is interesting. They all do their stuff really well. I think the only operative you never take is the heavy stubber, but the number of shield at least you take 2 subductors plus the leader, so it minimum 3. But the more I play with them, the more I want to take 3 subductors, maybe drop the grenade launcher even against Space Marine, because I'm quite disappointed with the grenade launcher. It's really dicey. Sometimes you have great dice, or you can have a great spot on advantage, so you can benefit from accurate, because the grenade launcher, it's on 4s, so yeah, sometimes you only do 4 to 8 damage. It's not that much compared to a regular shotgun. So yeah, maybe sometimes a third subductors I think is good.
Yeah, it's an interesting team because there's so many different random tools, and some of them make sense on some maps. Like you were saying, if you can get a good vantage, so you can score accurate 1, then you get a reroll with accurate 1. Then hitting on 4s, you're expecting like 2 to 3 hits, maybe sometimes 3 to 4 hits. And if you spike on the grenade launcher, since it has piercing 1 and 4/6 damage, the crits are worth a lot more on the grenade launcher.
Yeah, the grenade launcher can spike, but yes. Yeah, the more I play him, the less I like him. But yeah, it depends.
Yeah, because you're kind of relying on luck, right? Compared to having a subductor that if he stands in a safe position, your opponent's going to have to interact with him, or you can charge with a subductor and then just trap someone in melee with you. Because you did mention that the team identity used to be that you couldn't reroll within 6 of them, but they still kept a little bit of it, because now you just can't reroll 1s within 2 inches, I think, of the whole team.
Yeah, and it's a great equipment against Space Marine, because against lots of team. If I have 1 spare equipment slot, I take the strobe, like your opponent can't reroll once. If he hits on 3s, lots of Space Marine have lots of rerolls, so it's good. It's good.
Balance is pretty prevalent pretty much across all the Space Marine teams in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Like Plague Marines have Ceaseless if they don't move that far. Assault Marines just have their version of a reroll all the time. Really, the only team that kind of lacks rerolls generically is Night Lords, but it sounds like some places are getting around that by adding ammo crates to the map so they can shoot from far away and get some rerolls and start some stuff going. So having phosphor lumens to turn off some rerolls means that your shields are just that much more annoying against everyone. And even against kind of like the 10 wide melee teams, generally there's some reroll. Orcs always have Wog up, which is some version of balanced.
Yep, that's true. And if they hit on 3s, at least half of the misses are 1s. So yeah, it's a good equipment. But all their equipments are good. I like to take also lots of terrain equipments to shape the battlefield. So the equipment slot are hard to decide also. Yeah.
Interesting. So instead of using like the reinforced mirror visor, the manacles, or the special issue shells, there's a lot of terrain that you're adding to the board to kind of make people take longer to get up the board or give you staging points to go up the board. Because I assume the heavy barricade is pretty nice on some maps where there's just not a lot of room to stage, because you're mostly a melee team with the shields. So getting them into the right position means you need to have a safe place to stage.
Yeah. Every barricades, wire, they are all great stuff, because unfortunately you're quite locked into security with this team, because they I think they like the impact to play seek and destroy. So sometimes you really have to shape the battlefield to take advantage and play security well. Every barricade, is I take it often, because it's a team that you quite have to play quite cagey. So you put the subductors in front, but sometimes you really need a safe spot right behind to cover them, and you need the heavy barricade to do it. So yeah, like I said, the equipment slot are rare, not so much.
You actually end up taking all 3 of the terrain equipment most games then, just to like have like lanes locked up, because it sounds like maybe you're playing contain, you're playing take ground, so you're like funneling people to either not cross the halfway line, or you're like, we're going to go into this box and I'm going to make it so that everyone goes into the box. So coming to my side is annoying. Is that what that sounds like what you're doing, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, that's quite it. I often play wire and barricades to make some funnels because when your opponent is stuck with all your subductors, it's really hard for him to clean the place. And sometimes, yeah, you can play with that with so again, lots of equipment. But if you have the visors and the stun grenades, and there is a big melee, you can throw the stuns in the middle and it stun everyone except you. So it can be cool.
That's a pretty interesting combo. Yeah, and just kind of like also in general with like any teams, that are like more than 8 models, it's nice to have the equipment so you can fan out a little bit and then you can stage in all sorts of places where like if you were going to stage with as much forward presence as you would want, you would have to be clustered up. But with like the equipment, like light barricades, heavy barricades, and stuff like that, you can kind of like fan out and still have like better forward presence without being clustered up, which is really good.
Yeah, true.
It sounds kind of funny because if you lock your opponent with a bunch of terrain and they try to fall back, one of the things that falling back normally you can do is like you go around the person that's blocking you. But if you are fighting around terrain, suddenly there's climbs and extra inches that you have to fan out to go around. And it means that those fallbacks, if you have enough operatives kind of like flooding the middle of the map, you suddenly can only go backwards, which is not what you want to do. Normally when you're falling back, you're trying to go forwards into a more aggressive position, especially as a Marine with mobile or something else. You're like, I'm falling back into opposing territory so I can shoot someone. But if you have enough walls and you have enough operatives, you can like lock people up. And then the idea of like, oh, we have a melee with 5 guys, I'm gonna throw a stun grenade in because everybody's within 1 inch, and suddenly. And because you're one of the few factions with the reinforced mirror visors, which ignores APL changes. So it's one of the few teams that can still do the silly medic bait from the last edition that most people have lost. For anyone who doesn't know, you can have your bait next to the medic within 3 inches and just leave him out there, and he can get shot. And then when he gets medicked, neither the medics nor the healee care, and they just wander off to do whatever they were going to do.
Yeah, it makes one of the good medics in the game, so that's great.
Yeah. I mean, both of us used to use that in the last edition of Kill Team on Starstriders, but they removed it.
I think no, it's baked in the medic in Starstrider. I think no, you don't have to take equipments. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't get it on the person who's getting shot at, I think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Whereas on on this team, you have your shotgun guy dangle out, shoot someone. Your opponent's like, okay, I'm going to kill him. They kill him, and then he just runs away. And then the medic just wanders off and shoots you from the other side because the medic still has a shotgun in this team.
Yeah, so about.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the crazy shotgun teams. So there's a couple of them floating around. We got scouts, we got the Jaegers, we got these guys, all with 4.4 shotguns. Big beefy shotguns that hurt real bad.
Yeah, but sometimes it can. I think I don't have the luck to play against sanctifiers, but the team that has damage reduction, it's when your shotgun becomes 3/3. Yeah, it's quite hard after to kill guys because you have shotguns, but you don't have lots of big weapons. So this is
your breakpoint. The Exaction squad, the breakpoint for the team is like most of your weapons at the upper end are like 4/4 damage. So against Sanctifiers, you're down to 3/3, which is not a good number. I watched a Far Stalker player last night try to fight a Sanctifiers player, and let me tell you, going from 3/4 damage to 2/3 damage meant that just nothing. I think I looked at the end of the game, and there were like 6 Sanctifiers left on the board. No Crute, because I'll tell you now, 2/3 damage is not the breakpoint you want. Even with Lethal 5, Ceaseless, all the keywords in the world, it's probably still going to be a little rough fighting effectively a 9 wound model.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So this is a problem against Plague Marines also. If they roll well on their Feel No Pain, it's a real struggle because against Space Marine, it's quite hard matchup. But there are 2 teams that are really hard. I think Plague Marines because of the Feel No Pain. And they can heal, so even when you chip damage, they heal back. So it can be hard. And Nemesis Claw also is a really really hard matchup because they have good melee threats, and they can shut down one of the big combo of the team with the Leash Master and the dog, because the two can activate. When you activate one, you can activate the other one. So you have to tell it at the start of your activation. But when you say, I activate the Leash Master, I activate the dog, your opponent say, no, I Vox Scream the dog, and you end up with just an activation with the Leash Master who can do nothing. So it's one of the rare matchup where maybe you don't take both. You don't take either the Leash Master and the dog, and it's hard to let them on the bench. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard anyone talk about any of the specific Leash Master Cybermassive combos in this edition. So do you want to like give our listeners kind of like a microcosm on what makes the pair good? And obviously, Nemesis Claw breaks the pair. So what's a combo? Where have you been using it?
So the combo is that when you activate one, you can activate the other one, and it's like with the Chaos Cult guys, you can activate them in any other of your choice. So you can make one action with your Leash Master, two action with the dog, and the last action with the Leash Master if you want. So typically. You start with the dog. We can charge at 10 feet because you can change its order. So he charge, then you activate the Leash Master. He move, shoot the opponent, the dog charge, and you change the order of the dogs so he can have Relentless instead of his +2 move, and then he fights, and with that. With a little bit of luck, you can even one-shot Space Marine. Because, the Leash Master, with the shotgun, you use the special munition. So you have AP1 on his shotgun. So he can do 8 damage. And then the dog with its 3-5, lethal 5 damage and Relentless, it can do the rest sometimes. So it's a great combo with a lot of range because the dog can charge a lot, and with the shotgun you have a ploy that can in your cover at 4 feet. So you technically have a 10 feet range on your threat. So it's a really good combo.
Yeah, really lets you send off a melee missile into your opponent's range and then decide after a couple other movements like, oh, you killed him with the shotgun. Now you can put the dog on basically a better save, or you can do some other stuff. And the dog also has the ability to make the opponent's melee worse, right? For apprehend. So the dog can like bite your opponent's hand and then do a melee combat. So at -1 to hit, and then the dog does its 4-on-4s, relentless 3-5, lethal 5 combo after getting shot in the head by some special issue ammunition. So because they intermingle their activations, and both the Leash Master and the dog have 0 AP actions, there's a lot of flexibility. So the Cybermassive is a 6-inch mover normally, but you can start the game with it on Swift, so it has 2 extra inches of movement. And then when it charges, obviously it has a 10-inch charge. And then the VR command lets you just immediately change the Cybermassive to either have Relentless or improve its save by 1. So if for whatever reason you blow someone's brains out, then the dog can have a 3-up save in the open and be bait for your opponents.
Yeah, it's like the rest of the team. They are really versatile. They have like offensive missile like that, and in the other side they can be quite tanky with a 3-up save. They can have defensive rerolls. So yeah, you can play either side, and it's a great strength of the team.
Yeah, and obviously the ability for, I think it's the Long Arm of the Law. What is this ridiculous ploy? Guilt reveals
itself.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, Guilt Reveals Itself is an extension of the within 2 inches you ignore basically all of the cover rules part of the rule book. So normally if you get within 2 inches, the game decides that you're close enough to your opponent, you can ignore cover and orders and whatever and just blow people up. So this gets around Super Conceal and a bunch of other stuff as long as you can see your opponent. Guilt Reveals Itself is unique to Exaction Squad, but it is also kind of on Inquisition Agents, where you pull that back to a 4-inch line. So all of the guns can just, you got a 6-inch shotgun, but you only have to be within 4 inches to start shooting people. And it can be really annoying to interact with because your opponents are just can't really get cover. So on turn 1, it's also one of the teams where every once in a while, if your opponent's a little bit too aggro on positioning, you could theoretically threaten a shot as long as you turn it on early. So maybe the only time you would do that is if you know your opponent is going to take reposition during scouting. You're like, I'll take option 2, turn on guilt reveals and stuff, and like, come on, bro, you wanna die? Come to the midline, I'll blow your brains out.
Come on. It's a great ploy, but the teams tend to be quite CP hungry because all the ploys are really good. Yeah, guilt reveal itself. The reroll ploys are good because you have balance at 6 and ceaseless on melee. So this is mandatory with all the subductors you take. And they have great Firefat ploys. Also with execution order, I think it's one of the best ploy in the game thematically, and for the fun of it. And you can select one operative, and the next time he activates, you can activate before him. So it can be devastating, but there are limitations on it. So it's not easy to use, but after each game, I question myself if I should have played execution order better or not. I think it's one of the lever to play the team better is to focus on deploy.
And one of the things that makes it even like trickier is that like if you did it in a way that would have been perfect, and then the opponent makes a different choice for it, and it doesn't like reveal the true strength of it. It's like the strength of it is in like what they don't do sometimes, which makes it really hard to appreciate how strong it is.
Yeah, that's true. So
yeah, it's also one of those things where it's harder in upper end tournament play because you basically, whenever your opponent finishes an action, you're like, okay, are you sure that you want to do what you're doing? Because you have to basically have the counter spell on ready, right? For the mandrakes and the elf teams, you do it in strat gambit phase where you're like, I'm going to pick this guy. If you do something, I'm going to go before you or go right after you. But execution order is use firefight ploy when an enemy operative performs a mission action, or use it at the end of the firefight phase and select one enemy operative who controls an objective marker. So there's basically a couple windows where you're like, well, if you touch the mission, I'm going to blow your brains out. And they're like, can you do that? And you're like, I have this card.
Yeah, that's true. And it's really good with Beacon because lots of Recon player plays Beacon. So every time they place a Beacon, you have to wonder if you want to use execution order on him for the next turn. So it's every time your opponent do a mission action, you have to pause and think a little bit if you want to play it for the next turn, because they might not finish his turn on the objective. So you will not be able to play execution order on these targets.
Yeah. Are there any kind of like useful metrics in your mind that you found have generally been useful as a starting point for anyone who's looking to get into Exaction Squad? Because it is such a skill testing part of the team. Like, has there been one thing you're like, generally, if this is true, it's generally good, and every once in a while it's not? But most of the time, I find this is a good starting spot.
You mean you asked me?
Like a heuristic, or generally if your opponent is going to the mid board and leaving a model there, you're like, I will generally do it at the end of turn 1. I'll pick that guy because he's going to be in an awkward position. Or is it generally in the middle of turn 2, you see your opponent is doing a mission action, you're prepping for turn 3?
Yeah. So at the end of turn 2, if there is a target on an objective, often on the middle one, I play it on him. Except if really is the untouchable, because there are lots of guys and I don't know, I can't do really anything on him. But often if there is a target on the center objective, it's the time to play execution order.
You feel like there's a lot of times where you can play it on turn 1 and have it be relevant or is it mostly like a turn 2 thing, just because on turn 3 the person in the middle of the board is always going to be important because he's the most far up, whereas like on turn 1 if someone goes to their backline objective and stands there, you're like, meh, probably, I'm gonna go before him. What am I gonna do? He's so far away.
Yeah, often because execution order can be used if you have no threat on the target. So yeah, it's really rare that you can put it on turn 1. But yeah, if the situation is okay for you, play it. Yeah, if you can play it, you play it.
Yeah, I suppose if anyone was trying to learn how to play the team, what I would tell them while they're practicing is probably just use it every time it's possible until you have your own internal metric for like, maybe the one on the middle is not going to be useful because I don't have any stages, I don't have any threats. Maybe I shouldn't use it on turn 1 unless I already have a guy prepped for the next turn where I turn on guilt reveals itself so that if they activate that person, I can yeet myself up and blow them up. So there's a bunch of stuff. You can always just try to always do it and then go backwards.
Yeah, I think it's a good advice. And yeah, with this team, it's true that the middle objective is often yours because you have deploy. So if they go on it, okay, you have a countermeasure to that. And often at the end of turning point 1, you deploy your Nuncio Aquila with the leader on the center objective. So yeah, your opponent really have to commit to the center objective. So you have room to play execution order after turning point 2 and so on.
Yeah, we could talk about the Nuncio Aquila, the most annoying little token that ever existed on this team. You know, a free action that your Proctor Exactant, your leader, can do that just drops a 20 millimeter token that just makes everyone miserable.
Yeah, and when you drop it, you have to say, each time I drop it, I say it, yeah, this is the police, surrender, no! So yeah, it's a psychological impact on your opponent, and they never surrender, but it's good to do.
Yeah, the Nuncio Aquila is a 3-inch bubble, which is a massive bubble in this game at this point. There's not a ton of 3-inch auras that are floating around outside of, Sanctifiers who have 6-inch auras. So stupid Imperial teams trying to use a bunch of auras that all these other players have to interact with. But a 3-inch bubble it costs you an extra APL to do any mission actions or pickup markers or any of the other stuff, and you count as -1 total APL on objectives. So that means that just a random subductor standing in the middle of the board against a random Space Marine, that the long arm of the law is screaming at the Space Marine, he gets distracted.
Yeah, it's really fun. And sometimes on ITD, if some room, you can place it that it's cover the objective and sometimes the door to access your part. So you open the door, you place the Nuncio Aquila, another guy close the door, and it's becoming an annoying room for your opponent. They have to lose a lot of time to do things there.
Man, that is brutal.
Yep.
And then you can move it every time you activate your leader model. It's a free action, 0 AP, and it just like shoves the thing 6 inches. So the first time you can drop it within 6 inches of you, and then you don't have to be within 6 inches of it afterwards. It just moves on its own.
Yeah, so you really have to protect your leader you have to survive until at least the end of turning point 3, if it's possible. And but it's good at surviving because he's a beast. You have shield, you have lethal 5, hit on 3s, and you have a 3 hub save. So yeah, generally he can survive if you don't send him on the front line. But you have to protect him a little.
Yeah. So I guess in the service of protecting your Proctor Exactant, are there other is it melee missiles that you use in front of him to distract your opponent, or is it more defensive pieces like subductors that you're standing in the way and then your leader will react to them? Because the team has a couple other melee pieces that are, decent. We talked about the dog, but there's also the castigator, and then there's some other shooting threats, basically.
Yeah, technically the front line is only subductors because your opponent quite don't want to charge them, but yeah, it's the only thing you present to them. So yeah, frontline subductors, and after you have all your your counter aggression, like the castigator. Well, it's the base weapon on the team. It is a 5/5 mace, so it's really good. But on the front line, only subductor is the base situation you can do. Yeah.
So from like a strategic perspective, you have the first wave that's standing on the points or at the middle of the board is going to be all the shield people. Second wave would be like your leader, your castigator, your cyber mastiff, and then the back threats are all going to be like the medic or the shooters. Basically, just that's your 3 waves. Or do you not really think about it like that, and it's really just 2 waves all clustered very heavily across the middle of the board?
It's more like 2 waves. It depends on the maps, but usually on the large one, it's 2 waves with like two guys. It's where the heavy barricades sometimes is really good because you have to have your counter threats placed well, so you have sometimes to take the heavy barricade to do it. But yeah, and that's why I think more and more to take 3 subductors to do it well, because sometimes they are tough, but they get killed. So sometimes you feel like you like another subductors to assure the job.
Hey everybody, here doing our own little personal ad read for our respective tournaments. The New York Open, October 18-19, one of the last golden tickets before the actual World Championships of Warhammer. And Jason's got the Renegade Open.
Renegade Open hopping in right after that, which is going to be maybe the first golden ticket event for the 2026 season in just outside of Minneapolis, pretty close to the airport, November 22 and 23 with a golden ticket.
Yeah, tickets are up on sale now at ny-open.com, and Renegade Open, you'll get tickets up when you get them up. And links will be in the show notes when it goes up.
Hope to see you there.
All right, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting team with a lot of random tools. So it sounds like you're not using a ton of the equipment on the team. When where you can, you'll use it. Reinforced mirror visors if you, for whatever reason, think you're going to get into a shootout. Phosphor lumens, useful if you aren't taking 3 separate equipment choices. Do you ever take grenades then? For armor cracking? Like what? I gotta assume that the plan changes a lot depending on who you're fighting, right? Like you got to play a little differently against the elves, and then you definitely play differently against the Marines, because the Marines have always been historically one of the harder parts for the team to interact with. So the game plan has got to shift, even if the positions of the models don't really shift all that much.
Yeah. Most of my games on this edition was against Space Marine, so against them, always the special munition, because you can have one certain AP1 shotgun, which is brutal. Cracks, I think they are a trap on this team because you can't shoot cracks on melee because this is the rule of the team. You can shoot. Every one of your weapon can shoot into melee, but if you have cracks, it's not possible. So the cracks can be brutal because you have a great combo on the team with you have a saver and punishing if you want. So you can have a cracks with saver, punishing, and balance. So it's a good combo. But it's when you have a 4/4 shotgun, sometimes which is on 3s, a 4/5 AP1 hitting on 4, it's not that much. Tracks can be good when you have lots of subductors because they have a pistol, but it's not great. So if you have 3 or more subductors, it can be a good choice to take cracks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if your opponent is kind of like drip feeding Marines, it seems less useful because you can kind of, piece together a crack grenade with all of your special rules between punishing, severe, Pierce 1 from your equipment, your special issue bolt shells or whatever that you have to take against Marines. You can kind of make 1 crack grenade, but you can't make 2 or 3 crack grenades.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And because sometimes with the subductors you want to you don't often want to fight, so you charge and you pass. You let your opponent deal with that. It's like when you play Felgor. Yeah, you charge and you let him do his stuff. So sometimes they have one AP when action point to spend. So if they have a shooting, but they rarely have a shooting lane before charging because they are the front line. Your opponent is in concealed, yeah. But maybe with Guild Rebel itself, sometimes you have an opponent at 4, so yeah. When it happens, it's good to have a crack to throw because you can do 4 damage before the charge and can be good. But yeah, it depends. And like we said, there are really lots of equipment that are important on the team, so. Yeah, it's up to you if you want to play cracks and if it's your play style. It works. It works, but maybe not for me.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, as the local Space Marine player, how does all of the exaction stuff sound if you were to have to approach it?
I mean, it depends on which Space Marine angle coming from. I mean, I definitely feel like I haven't like played into Exaction at all in this edition. But last edition, it leaned a little bit more into the dice game just because if you turn off my rerolls and you don't have rerolls, and now it's like you turn off less of my rerolls and you have more rerolls. But I feel like I would plan to lose a lot, so I would just like have an Assault Intercessor run in, double fight, take a bunch of damage, kill a shield, and then just try to like do that again and just like single file hammer through a single point. And I don't know if it would work, but that's what I would try.
Yeah, I think the Space Marine have to, I think, throw lots of threats at the same time. When you have 5 Assault Subductors at the same time, you can't have your Sever and Punishing on everyone. It's one at a time. So if they all run at your face, yeah, it begins to to smell bad for Exaction.
Yeah, and then I guess it would also be pretty important to do as much shooting as possible. So it's like an Assault Intercessor is still a nightmare to fight. So if the Assault Intercessor runs up super close, shooting everyone with crit-piercing pistols that are balanced, still getting half of their rerolls, and then just being a pain in the butt to fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Space Marines have definitely presented an issue, I think, for pretty much all the teams in this edition.
Yeah.
You know, the ability to double shoot is, you know, while subductors are very strong in as far as like taking attacks, you know, you have to charge into them because otherwise you risk them just walking up to you and just like shooting you a couple times, and then your shotguns are fighting against three up armor saves, which is, you know, the shotguns doing 4/4 damage are quite good, especially against, you know, 8 wound models, but against a 14 wound model where you're like, oh, I hit them once. Like, oh, there's still a 10 wound Marine that I somehow have to manage. So there's a whole bunch of random tools that you have to deal with. But Exaction Squad deal with it pretty honestly after the first unfair shot.
Yeah, it's not great against Space Marine and their armor. I think the best tool we have against them is the sniper. The sniper is really great, but it's hard to use, like the sniper, because he has heavy. But yeah, I think the sniper, the Weber maybe, and the Castigator with his 5/5 mace. But when and you're like I said, the dog and leashmaster combo, but yeah, you have them just for one turn because after they die. When everything is all these threats are gone, yeah, I think the Space Marine has the upper hand. No doubt.
Space Marines are better if they can surgically pick off your threats, but obviously the marksman in this edition, full heavy is rough, but 4/0, devastating wounds 4, but generally with lethal 5 and no obscurity, you can get some pretty gnarly shots, you know, as Jason can probably attest with ignoring obscurity. Jason's just like stand in the back. It's like, I see your toe, and then you kill the whole model because their toe is sticking out.
I don't have that 4 crits shot for now, but I think it will happen one time when I will shot a Space Marine and one shot it with a 16 devastating wound. So bye.
Yeah, from the other side of the map with the marksman shotgun, which is a perfect
Yeah.
microcosm of the 40k universe. Like, we're gonna give this guy a shotgun that has a scope attached to it, and it's gonna
Sniper
someone from
shotgun.
a mile away.
Put a scope on a rocket launcher and it has silent.
Yeah. We haven't really discussed the two other kind of like bonus pieces. You know, you got the Malakator and the Revelatum. I think you touched on the Malakator just a little bit, which is the team's mission action doer. He gets a discount on all mission actions, generically, once during each activation. So they can open a door for free, they can do a mission action for free, but that also means that they could theoretically do a mission action for free, then move over and open a door. That's like, you know, they're a 3 APL thing as long as they're doing a mission action somewhere along there, which Jason has plenty of experience on. But it also has the Verisacant ability, which is the severe, and if the weapon already has severe, you get lethal 5. And we talked a little bit about putting a crack grenade on with that rule so that you could like chuck a crack grenade with bonus rules, which is good. But are there any other cases where you use the Malakator? Is it one of those operatives that you tend to leave out because you're taking more subductors?
No. The Malakator you take always, and is here to put saver on, especially against Space Marine or higher targets. I always, because the saver it's until its next activation. So often I put saver on turning point 1. At the start of turning point 2, you can put punishing on any opponent, so you put punishing on the same target. So you really have to pick it well. It's a great combo, but you can't make mistake. It's at the end of turning point 1, you have to select the target for turning point 2. So it's quite predictable, but sometimes it's great. But you always take him to put saver on someone.
Because the severe does not have a range requirement, so it's just visibility. Yep. So it's like getting marker lit by a Pathfinder player. It's like, I see you. Next turn we'll deal with you. Yeah,
and it's free. He had a free mission action or a free very scan. So it's he has this action for free if he doesn't do a free mission action. So he's a really great piece. And at the end, turning point 4, he still has a shotgun to blast someone.
And then the other support piece is the Revelatum, which is the guy who can just yeet himself up the battlefield on turn 1, because as long as he's taken as a first strategic gambit in the first turning point, as long as he's in your drop zone, you just reposition him, so he just runs up the board if he wants to.
Yeah, so he was really great in the last edition because you had to score turning point 1. So now the reposition turning point 1 is not that useful. Now the Revelatum is like only the spotter of the team. So he's great on ITD or on Beta Decima if you play on it. One thing particularly on Beta Decima is that unlike many spotters, it works for not just the next attack. It works for any one of your guys within 3. So sometimes on Beta Decima, you can spot for your sniper and your grenade launcher. So and for himself too. So but the team doesn't have lots of long range shooting. So that's limiting for its ability.
Yeah, very different from the Malakator, which is there to like juice your best shooting.
Yep.
Whereas the Revelatum is able to get around the battlefield and then spot people, so you could seek light and then no obscurity for someone. But it's also global, so you can just pick someone and get those rules. It just requires visibility. But then to get the benefit, you have to be within 3 inches of the Revelatum.
Yeah, I think he's a great spotter for Inquisition, but less so for us because we doesn't have lots of high mobility and long range shooting because the sniper is heavy. So he's good, but he's better in Inquisition team.
And I
But
suppose this would be this combo. So like we on last week's podcast, we talked with Dan from the UK about random alpha strikes we can do, and I'm seeing that the Revelatum with the crack grenade and then the Malakator can do a pretty dumb version of a turn one alpha strike. I don't know if it's good because it requires like a comms buff and CP and Revelatum and Malakator. But on turn one, if your opponent's not paying attention, you can pull out the 15-inch ruler and be like, I'm going to go hit this guy.
Yeah, it's true. If you're into this, okay, I don't judge you.
I mean, like, it's kind of like on that vein, but a slight twist on it. It just like moving the Revelatum forward and using Guilt Reveals Itself. Now, like, if you just like explain what that means, your opponent might not leave their drop zone, and then you just swallow the mid board and score a bunch of points.
Oh yeah.
Or if they do run out, then you're like, oh shoot, you called my bluff, and then you shoot them with your silly 3/3 pistol, and then they go, oh, and then they kill you. But nonetheless, if you can spook people with it.
I have had that exact spook moment against someone locally where I was playing Pathfinders and I pulled out the 17-inch ruler. I'm like, if you go up past this 17-inch ruler, you're gonna get shot like 6 times. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna leave my drop zone. And then that ended up being worse than getting shot 6 times. So you could probably get around it. So I could see a world where if you think your opponent's gonna take reposition and you already have the Revelatum, or you plan this out, you have like the Revelatum, you take crack grenades, and then you take the free ploy, and then you do Guilt Reveals Itself, and you smush them up the board. Suddenly your opponent's like, if I go up, is something bad going to happen to me? And then you could maybe get away with it. I don't actually know if it's a good idea because it seems more cute, especially because the team doesn't have a great amount of long range shooting. So it's like you have the one threat, and then if your opponent reacts to you, you have a couple more threats that open up, like having a marksman that's covering the Revelatum, and then also having a grenade launcher or some other long range threat kind of watching at the side. Could mean that if your opponent tries to interact with the Revelatum, you tag them back first, and then the other 2 guys can start shooting quietly. So I don't know if it's good, but it's funny. And you have the medic that we talked about, not taking APL penalties. So maybe there's some silly alpha strike juice to mess with your opponents.
Yeah, I have to try this.
It's probably like against teams that you can bully. So like the times when I try to do this the most is when I'm trying to play against like elves as a team that I out activate. So against like Void Dancers or Blades of Cain, probably your opponent has to really respect it, because if they do come up and you get tagged by a crack grenade and you just lose an elf on turn 1, it's like a disaster, because now you're down 4 operatives, which can be really rough.
Yeah, and like against elites, so against elves, you do it late, like the last activation of turn 1, they're all staged up, you run up and you crack grenade someone from 4 inches away. And against elites, you do it early, because then as they do stuff, you force them to either respond to it or hide, and then they start, it like totally ruins the tempo if you like hit an elite player early. I don't know. It could be feeding into their game, but like if you're shooting with silent shots and you got the medic and stuff, it's like you run out there, you throw a crack grenade at someone immediately. They shoot back at you. You shoot that guy with the sniper. They do some other stuff, and then you like shoot someone else with the guy that's covered by the medic. And now all of a sudden you have a turn 1 shootout that is like at the tempo and the timing that you have decided.
Oh yeah, if I can have a turn 1 shoot with the sniper. It's a good trade. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And especially because he ignores obscuring, if you just like have the Revelatum run aggro and just like run out there and Guilt Reveals Itself, like throw a crack grenade at someone, if they answer that at all, the sniper has a kill. Especially if they answer it like with something that can kill you reliably, that's a great kill for your sniper. And if they're throwing a bunch of goons at you that can't kill you, then they're just like exposing a bunch of targets, and either way, it's a good thing for you.
Yeah, true.
I am curious. We've talked about how elites are rough, and do you feel like that this team is particularly well suited for interacting with the most hype release of, as far as power level goes, of Blood and Zeal? Because both Goremongers and Sanctifiers are both ostensibly more melee centric teams. Sanctifiers can do a little bit of shooting, but they are very much like they've shoved themselves up on both ends. Goremongers, we've talked last week, we talked with Dan, and he mentioned that Goremongers kind of like an elf team that have inverse matchups compared to normal elf teams, where they're bad against elites and they're good against hordes. But this is a horde-ish team that's not, it's better against melee. So if the Goremongers charge you, do you care with the more subductors?
Yeah, I don't have played it yet, but I think I will maybe max the subductors. I think it's a good idea. I think the problem they can heal, so maybe the healing can be a problem. They have we don't talk about it earlier, but brutal weapons are a great counter to subductors. Because I said that there maybe have 5 attacks on 3s, 4 damage, have maybe 20% chance to kill a subductors. With brutal, it's maybe 50 or 60%. So it changed a lot. So they have a brutal one. It can be rough, but I think it's okay. Against Sanctifiers, I think it's really hard. Maybe we have one trick in our pocket, because we can have a torrent with the special munition, so we can shoot the leader without their possibility to redirect the shots. But even with that, our shotguns are only 3-3. The leader has 10 wounds. He's unkillable. I really don't know what to do against them. It's not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, it
Maybe
seems like a hard.
you have to throw the castigator on the leader, because he's the only one who can kill him, I think, with his 5-5 weapon. But yeah, it's really hard. But I think it's true for everyone.
Yeah, the 10 wounds on the leader on the opposing side are the most important 10 wounds in the entire game of Kill Team right now.
Yeah, true. And he has just a scratch. Yeah, why not?
And the damage reduction, and if you get close, he can just say no and make you not do an action.
Yeah.
Which is like
You
just
can't say no to Exaction.
Yeah, it's definitely a spot where I feel like the team probably struggles. I guess maybe instead of trying to kill the leader, your goal as the Exaction squad is to just break up the midline with all the subductors. They hit the midline, and then you just start shooting, like pumping shots into them and praying. That's like, please die as you shoot the guy that's like the shield is holding down.
I think it's the game plan. You have to play the crit up with your Nuncho Aquila to maybe tank the hit. You have to tank and not die, because and it's all you have to do, I think. But you won't kill them easily. Yeah, I think you will end up with 6 Sanctifier at the end of the game, like you said for the last game you played.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, you're already doing the obstacle course, and the Sanctifiers don't really enjoy the obstacle course.
Yeah, I think it would be my gameplay. No, I don't think I will try to kill their leader, because he's unkillable with the weapon we have access with Exaction. But I think I will play really KG and the crit up and take the medic and try to survive and outscore them on the primary with on the crit up with the Nuncho Aquila, and I think it would be
because their melee, even though your melee is not going to be good, when they charge you, it's not likely that a 4-on-4's 4-5 dork is going to kill a dude. Even with Ceaseless or Lethal 5, like a fair shot of just surviving, scot free, and then the medic comes up and like, boop.
Yep. I think it's the plan.
Yeah, and like the Ceaseless gives them more rerolls, but it also gives you more opportunities to turn off their rerolls. So it kind of like makes them significantly more risky to try to fight with.
Yeah, I think the melee will be a struggle, because I don't think they can kill the subductors in melee. I can't kill them easily also. So okay, it's one of the play with, like I said, a big blob of melee on the center, and you throw stun grenades and
that's a great one for stun grenades
against them too.
Yeah, before today, I hadn't even realized that you could throw a stun grenade into melee. And you said that, and I was like, "Whoa, hold on!" And I went and read it, and I was like, "I learned something new today. That's big."
Yeah, but
as a Phobos player, you've never just chucked grenades into your own melee.
No, the only time I ever used stun grenades with Phobos was on Counteract, because you can counteract with a conceal order, and you can throw a grenade with a conceal order. You just like stage pretty hard on the midline, and then if people get close to you, then you just counteract stun grenades.
And I think against Sanctifier, you have to take manacles also, so they can't fall back. It's mandatory, but it's dicey also. It's
gives me the Felgor versus Exaction squad of old, where it was like literally just I don't know who's gonna win or lose. We have a bunch of
Yeah,
subductors, a bunch of Felgor. No one's gonna start a fight. Whoever
yeah.
starts the fight first, it's literally just I don't know who knows. There's no prediction whatsoever because turns out no rerolls against old Felgor just meant that you were rolling 4 dice on 4s, 4 dice on 3s, and then just praying for someone to die, even though
Yeah,
most of the time nothing happens.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Weird games.
Yeah, for sure. How's it going in the French scene? You know, we had Augustin on here a little bit ago, and it turns out I think he's going to be part of the World Team Championships TO crew, I think. So, are you part of the French team that's going, or what's the vibe like in France right now?
Yeah, we have 3 teams for the WTC. So you talk about the WTC or the French? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know France has its own kind of like you guys have your own separate like circuit structure that Linouette helps to
Yep.
kind of push along, and then the WTC is also coming up later, end of July, beginning of August, if I remember correctly, and that'll be like the big, team championship for Europe because none of the US is flying out right now because I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, we in France, like you said, you have a French circuit to gain golden tickets. So we have many tournaments through the year, and we earn points. And at the end, we have a finale at 8 players. I'm not sure I will be qualified because I don't have played into lots of tournaments. I have another one in next week. I will play Exaction. I think if I want to be on the finale, I have to win the tournament. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And after, yeah, the WTC, we have 3 French team. We don't do we have a more casual play on this one because I know like Spain, for example, they have to qualify for each team, so they have the team 1 with all
They have a
the
Primero,
all-star,
Secundo, and then
and team 2 and everything. Yeah, we just we make the team with from affinity, from friends and everything. So it's more casual, but yeah, it will be good. I think I will bring Exaction also because on team event you can avoid hard matchup, and with the team on middle tier team like Exaction, which are not meta but have great matchup and everything. Yeah, team events, it's a great spot for them, I think.
Yeah, team events tend to be one of those spots that, generic kill team players don't really have a ton of interaction with yet because we don't have a ton of team tournaments. There's in the US, as far as, it goes, the WTC is the biggest one. That one is like a bunch of countries in Europe. So a lot of people fly out for that one. And then the US, there's one on the West Coast, which is Dakota, the guy who runs LVO, Luster's Workshop. He runs a big East or West Coast team tournament. And then this year, Atlantic City Open, which is June 14, 15, is switching to a 3-person team tournament. So there's going to be a couple team tournaments floating around. And in that respect, having bifurcated matchups where you're like, I really like playing Marines, but I really like playing against elves and all this other random stuff that floats around in the meta is good because now you have a strength where if you have a good team captain, they can be like, I'm going to make the Space Marine players play against, maybe an elf team or something else. And then the Exaction squad can either have a good board, board that you can maze out really well, or just a good opponent where you're expecting that in most cases, Exaction squad will do well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it can be good. I can dodge maybe Plague Marines and Nemesis Claw, this kind of thing, and maybe butcher some elves.
Yeah. I mean, and then also one of the good things about Exaction squad specifically is they're very good at taking kind of like a medium matchup anyways and just making it kind of a morass, right? If you take 5-6 shields and just stand around on the mid board, play contain, and just hit the crit op, you can probably make your opponent take a long time for them to find a way out of the box anyways.
Yeah, you don't, when you lose, you don't lose by that much. You don't get crushed. So for team events, it's good because even when you lose, you have to try to not lose too much. To
Yeah,
still
you can be a backstop basically. And Exaction Squad feel very good. Like last year, Team America sent a player on 12 Plague Bearers as their we're gonna take the bad matchups block because they're like, well, you have 8 wounds and a 5-up, feel no pain. There's a non-zero chance that I have a 12 wound model, and you shake the Plague Bearer. You're like, do you have 12 wounds? Like, oh, this one does. Like, oh, great. So, it's one of those things that team tournaments can help incentivize, basically, a little bit of extra decision making that normally players don't really have a choice because you just show up to the board, you play whatever you're going to play, and you do the best you can.
Yeah, that's true. So because when the game starting to feeling bad, you maybe won't win. You have to really think to not lose by too much because it's important for the rest of the team. So yeah, it's really good to. Yeah, it's nice to try some team events. It's fun because you're with your friends, and for the team spirit is always great.
So the French circuit, how is that going as far as how many players? Because I think we've had a couple French players on over a long period of time, and the French scene has gotten bigger and bigger. I assume Kill Team 3. Augustin was on here a while back, and he mentioned that the scene has gotten much bigger, and I'm kind of surprised that he's helping to TO on the WTC end, just because I kind of figured Augustin wanted to play as much as possible, but he's helping to TO a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the French scene is growing bigger and bigger, and the players are getting better and better. Augustin is a really good player. Some new players are really good also. Like I said, I think the last 2 years, I was qualified quite easily. No, I am struggling to get to the French finale, so we'll see. But it's great because there are more and more tournaments, more and more TOs. So this is really cool.
Do you have any? So you have an upcoming tournament at the end of the week. This podcast won't come out in time for that. But are there any other large French tournaments that you want to give a shout out to, or like your local shop before we head off for the day?
I want to a big shout out to all the TOs because they are doing wonderful work in French, and to my team of sparring partner with which I will go to the WTC. So all the guys, hi, see you soon.
Alrighty then, Jason. Any other things to ask before we head out?
No questions from me.
All right, Tybalt, thanks for coming on, talking about Exaction Squad, getting a little bit into the nitty gritty about the bad matchups. I guess Space Marines remain a problem for us all.
Yeah. Space Marine, yeah.
And as always, thank you, listeners, for listening until the end.